Hello, and welcome to another episode of interviewing individuals in their roles within their diverse population. My name is Mark Esposito, and today I have Christine with us today. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome to have you on the show. Well, I guess it's a show now because I'm interviewing multiple people. Um, so yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So tell me about your role.
So, I am the assistant director at a nonprofit. It is a life enrichment center for adults with disabilities.
Wow, that's really exciting. How did you actually come across that role and position?
So, I was working one to one as a self direction DSP with an individual. I was taking her there, dropping her off and picking her up. And I guess just from the way that I interacted with her and the other participants in the parking lot during dismissals and arrivals, the director of the program there approached me and she said, "Hey, like, what are you up to? What are you doing? We would love to have you come in and see if you could be a good fit here." And then the rest was history.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I love that. How long have you been working in this population now?
So it started as just kind of like a job that I was doing throughout college. It was flexible hours. I was able to work it into my school schedule. Um, and then I just found that I was really good at it. Um, Even though I didn't have any experience with the community, I think that just treating people like people went a really long way. And I learned so much every time I had a session with someone. I was, of course, like breaking down tasks and simplifying things to help them learn how to do something as simple as like washing your hands or go to the grocery store. And what I found was that I became better at doing simple things like washing my hands and going to the grocery store. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Even though it's a job and I'm getting paid for it, there is a value in this work that is not monetary. And it's a value that you really don't find a lot, you know? So I feel like I'm really lucky and blessed to be in this position and to feel this type of connection with this work and with the people.
I love that. That's a genuine and authentic response. Something I definitely connect with and too. I love how you said you started. You're supporting an individual and a client out in the community, and suddenly you're like, "Huh, I never noticed this. I actually have to get better at this."
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed was I'm a lot safer. Like when I'm crossing the street, I'm really making sure that I'm looking both ways
Yeah.
because I'd just be a terrible model if I didn't do that.
Right. Like, how can you teach people how to do something if you're not doing that and fully living that out yourself?
Oh, totally. So then you must have come across a few challenges or hurdles while in the field or even your position now. What are one or two that you feel have been really significant?
100%. One of the big challenges that I had, especially moving into a more like leadership director type of position, um, wasn't so much focused around the participants, actually. It was more, and the person that I was taking the role on from, that I was replacing, through trainings and stuff, told me that I was going to be great. You know, I didn't really have the credentials that she had, and I was a little bit nervous about that. But I had the experience, and I had the heart. And the biggest thing that she said would be a challenge for me was the staff, not the participants. And when she said that to me, I was like, that sounds crazy. You know, like staff are staff, like they're adults, they know how to like handle themselves and do what they're supposed to do. And I learn more and more every day that she was so right. And what I've learned from that is that working with the participants and learning to be patient with them and meeting them where they're at, that helped me work with the staff as well and kind of like level with them and understand where they're coming from and help to develop them as leaders themselves. So that's all just to kind of say And this is something I go back to all the time. You know, the curb cut theory?
No, I don't know what that is.
So, like, we didn't always have curb cuts in the sidewalks. And when that came to be, the intention was to support individuals who require a wheelchair so that if they're out in the community, they don't have to, they don't need so much assistance, or maybe even can independently cross the street in their wheelchair if there's a curb cut. What happens there is that when we create our systems to accommodate people who need some accommodation like that, like a curb cut for a wheelchair user, everybody ends up benefiting. So even if you are not in a wheelchair, don't require a wheelchair, if you're riding your bike, the curb cut helps you. If you are moving somewhere or moving like large items on like a hand cart, the curb cut works in your benefit. If you're elderly and you have a walker, the curb cut works in your benefit. If you're a child in a tricycle, you know, the curb cut works in your benefit. So it really helps everyone, and everybody gets to benefit when we create a world that is accommodating to individuals who are more marginalized and require more assistance.
That is so well said. That makes me just think about the work done with IDEA and ADA, and thinking about the built system that we live in, right? And universal design, but more so that at some point we're all going to have a disability of some sort, right? We're going to have something that holds us back, that injures us, or even just age, right?
Sometimes it's temporary too. Like when people become pregnant, like you need more assistance during that. And that's something that a lot of people do experience and hope to experience one day. And even like you said, like old age, we're all, God willing, we're all going to get there. So we're going to need that assistance, whether we have family to help us, friends to help us or not. And I think that having our independence is a really, really important part of our quality of life.
Yeah, I love that, because it just makes you think of even though there's so many differences between every single person, there's a shared commonality, right, of challenge. And I think especially in today's society, we're seeing that there's a communal connection with that. We're all having our own struggles, but there's a connected struggle, right? And there's a way that we can all find a way to overcome the challenge or work through it. And so that's really great. Thank you so much for pointing those pieces out. Those are really, really, really important topics. So following up with that, then, what are the successes you've seen in your position, in your experience?
I think that success, just like opportunities to like learn, opportunities to teach, like you find little pockets of it everywhere. And it looks different to everyone. So like success for one person, I always remember this one individual's mom always tells me, like, he takes out the garbage in his house every single day. He actually doesn't come to our program anymore, but I send somebody there to work in the home about once a week, and I keep in touch with the mom, and she always says to me, he never took out the garbage, and now that's his job here because that's what he learned at your program. So something like that, it's so simple, but like really feels like a big win, because this is somebody who didn't really socialize much with the family, didn't care to be a part of the community in the home or contribute. And then coming to our program, one really big takeaway that he had was, this is my job. This is this little piece of contributing to the family. It's not my whole purpose, but it gives me a sense of purpose. And I feel like that's one that I think about a lot, because seeing like the gratitude from the family, seeing how it impacts the individual, and then building on that, we still continue to work with them and build on more things that he can learn and contribute in the home. So that's an example of kind of like a smaller one. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, see what I did there?
I love that. Yeah, that was good.
The opposite end of that is a lot of people are really interested in supported employment services. That's kind of like the, like the glamorous part of the work. Like it gets all of that like attention and all of like the news stories and stuff. But just because somebody has a job doesn't mean that that's where like that's it for them. They still have more to grow and learn. So we had somebody who was an production assistant production coordinator, something like that, at the t-shirt printing facility that we partner with, and he was doing that for years. He worked towards it, was entry level, worked towards that position, and then he felt like he plateaued. He was like, what's next for me? I've been doing this for years now. I don't really know where I'm going next. And he worked with our support employment team to reanalyze kind of like what his interests were, what he wanted out of life. And then he ended up resigning, keeping a good relationship with the company in case he wanted to go back, but he resigned. And one thing about this guy, he loves cars. We don't know how, but he would come in like every few months with a new lease.
Okay.
He was somebody who was just like and he, drove himself to the program and everything. We ended up placing him at BMW, and he loved working there. So now I think, he switched locations, but he's been in BMW for quite some time now, and that's a totally different like field that he's working in. But we were able to make that happen for him, just like any of us when we are in some part of our career and we feel like we need a switch, we have that freedom and autonomy to do so, and to be able to offer that to someone else, to even have like some small part of that, it feels really good. It's something that I can be really proud of. And I can see how that has impacted the individual and his quality of life as well.
Yeah, it's really excellent. I think that it really sounds like when we focus on a person-centered approach, right? We look at the strengths of the individual and see how we can expand from that point, right? Instead of identifying, oh, this is what you do right, this is what you do wrong. Let's just see the current dynamic that you're in, and taking it from there. And it sounds like, that's the success that you can have when you accept that kind of variety for someone.
Ooh.
Yeah, please.
I have one more too.
Of course, please.
Okay, this one is really good because it's so unique, and I relate to it a lot because like growing up, people would always ask me like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And I was just like, I don't really think it exists. I think it's something that I'm going to have to create on my own, to fulfill all my needs, and I'm not going to settle. And I really do feel that I've done it. Like I've made it. Assistant directors is just a title, but what like encompasses like that title, like what my day looks like. Sometimes I act like a nurse. Sometimes I'm the crisis management. Sometimes I'm a therapist. Sometimes I'm a janitor. I'm going to be honest. But I love that I can wear so many hats. And I never know what the needs of the day are, but like it keeps me on my toes, right? So that's kind of like a little bit on my background. And it reminds me of this one individual that I also used to work one-to-one with. We would go out into the community. He was very motivated by work, but unfortunately had a lot of trouble controlling his impulses, violent scripting, very reactionary. So a traditional work setting was not safe for him or for others, even though he was a phenomenal worker, so organized, so meticulous, very precise. So I took him to a couple of places where my friends own this yoga studio. We volunteered over there, and they were happy to give him that opportunity to like help clean and organize things at that business. We went and volunteered at a local food pantry that also offered like clothes and stuff. That place was really cool because they had a shop in there. So like people who needed clothes, they would still like get to preserve their dignity and go shopping, and there would be a cash register even though they weren't paying for their clothes, just so they had that experience. So he worked kind of in that area, like organizing the retail, organizing the food, going through the clothes. But that even those environments, one, he wasn't getting paid, so it was great like to have that practice. But two, there was still too many variables in the environment that could trigger and set off some sort of behavior for him. Um, so what we actually ended up doing, this guy's an amazing artist. He used to come in, or he still comes in, with a brown bagged lunch, and on the brown bag is a different, again, car, special interest, and
Mm-hmm.
he gets these like details on the cars so well. Like you know exactly what car it is, and he'll like label it and tell you like this is a '96 Camaro, whatever. He's really good with like knowing all of that stuff. His dad was a mechanic. So what we ended up doing for him in our vocational skills department, we got our own t-shirt press and we got a Cricut, and we had this guy working with us who was teaching us how to make vinyls. And this person ended up showing us how to go onto like Adobe and take a drawing on paper, upload it, and edit the drawing on like the software on the computer, create a vinyl out of it, and then heat press it onto a t-shirt. So creating that product became this individual's job. We were able to employ him through that vocational department. He gets paid to take custom orders of t-shirts, and this is his job that he gets paid to do. And it's something that he loves. It's something that never existed before that we were able to help create, and it's in a controlled, safe environment for him to continue being the amazing worker that he is, but also has that flexibility for him to, if he does, act on an impulse or have a behavior, he's not going to lose his job. He's not going to get fired. He's just going to continue to work on controlling that. And I don't think that's the end for him. Like, this is just the beginning. But it's so amazing that we were able to kind of like carve out that space for him and create that unique opportunity that would not have existed otherwise. And he's backed up on orders too. He has so many orders coming down the pike.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Really
really.
proud of him.
Yeah, I would be too. I mean, it sounds incredible because it also touches on how we talk. I think there's a lot of talk about doing integrated settings, right, to support our community, especially as roles as service providers. And sometimes it's not always beneficial for the needs of who we're supporting, and we have to look at sometimes a restrictive environment. And the term itself, restrictive, can sound it can sound like it's going against what we're trying to actually accomplish. But we're working with individuals who have very specific and sensitive needs, and you guys finding out a way to accommodate, adapt, modify, uh, not so you could hold the individual back, but so you can help them bridge that gap to the next thing, right? Is really great. And I love how this individual is. It's not just, it's a stepping stone, right, to keep
Right.
moving forward. So then these are a lot of sometimes intimate settings that you're in, and even in a work setting, it could be a little intimate, working one-to-one with someone, or even if you're supporting a team or managing one. What would you say is something for those on the outside that maybe they have a misconception about, or maybe you feel they kind of knew, that would maybe be supportive or even be insightful for their own selves?
Um, so I think that for people who aren't familiar with this community, it can, and I can say that I felt this before when I wasn't familiar with the community as well, that it can feel maybe a little scary, like you don't know what the person across from you is thinking or what they're going to do. And something that I always go back to is that like all behaviors are just an attempt at communicating. So they're trying to say something to you, right? And it's frustrating because they may not have the tools in their toolbox to say what they're trying to say. And when you kind of look at it from that perspective, you feel more empathy. And it's not othering, like, oh, this person is like weird or strange or doing something that may be threatening to me. And it's more kind of like this person is struggling and having a hard time. And I have felt, we've all felt that way before too. And, you know, just thinking back to the times where you were frustrated with something and couldn't always communicate that, you know, it happens a lot in relationships. It happens with, and not just like, you know, when I say relationships, not just like a romantic one, it's like when you're trying to explain something to your parents or explain something to your boss, like it's frustrating when you can't get them to see what you're trying to say. Um, so that can, you know, we may not act out in a way that like looks threatening to other people. We'll act out in our own ways and look to our own devices, but um, we can all relate to that feeling. And I think knowing that like it's nothing against you and that it's not senseless or mindless, it actually is coming from something, so coming from a struggle and coming from that sort of like I'm trying to say this and I can't. I think that helps to kind of put it into perspective, and you can, even if you don't know what they're trying to say, you can understand that it's hard for them to not be able to say that.
Yeah, like something isn't right now. Something
Yeah,
is not going the way I feel like it should.
exactly. And it's not like I'm gonna attack anyone that's like getting in my way. It's more like I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, and you know, it may show up in a different way for different people, but it usually comes from that same place.
Well said. I'm working right now with early intervention, and I have a very young that I'm working with, and I still work with adult population, teenage and adult. And this is something I have to consistently discuss with teams and families, and sometimes even the individual, and understanding that this behavior that we're observing or that we're present for is advocacy. It's
Mm.
someone advocating for the moment that they are confused, they are frustrated, they are unsure if this is going to end. Is there an end? And why is it not meeting my expectation, right?
Mm.
And so it's really great that people looking from the outside in, that not to take it so personally, take a step back, maybe not physically, but in their mind of, is this person a threat to me? Instead, looking at it, what is present, right? And I think that speaks a lot to just be present in the moment. That's even as service providers, right? In your role, that's what we have to do sometimes. We just have to be present to see what do we do right now and moving forward. Uh, so then how about, you're the roles that you're in, is there anything you kind of wish you knew before uh, you started or entered it, or even up to now?
No, actually, I think that a lot of the work or a lot of the learning happens during the work. It's hard to do the learning before the work. um, just because everyone is so different and everyone's needs and what meets those needs, it's different across the board. You know, there are a lot of people in our program who are on the autism spectrum, but they always say if you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism because everyone is just so different. And there is a bit of comfort in knowing that, I think, because I'm not the most prepared person, but I stay ready. So I think that's like the best thing that I've learned from being in this field. And for anyone coming into the field, it kind of shows that like you don't have to know everything. You don't even have to know anything really, but you do have to respect people. And I think that if you are coming from a place of respect, you go a long way in this field, treating people like human beings. It's actually a part of our clinical approach at our program because we support people from such a wide range of independence levels. We have one-to-ones, we have people who are specialty cases, and then we have people who are so independent that, you know, they're driving themselves, they have paid gainful employment. They can be in groups of up to 5 or 6, sometimes even 7, like if we're really tight with staff. Um, and so when we have such a wide range and such a wide variety of programs and opportunities for people, it's hard to kind of have like a cookie cutter clinical approach. Um, so we definitely like respect and draw knowledge from ABA, applied behavior analysis, but that's not our first line of defense when it comes to dealing with behaviors. We call it a person first approach. So we treat the person like a person. It's common sense, it's least to most. And we recognize that although there is a lot of wisdom in ABA, it can be invasive. So we won't go there until we feel that it's totally necessary and we have the professional support and partnerships to work with us. We're always happy to work with people's behaviorists outside of our organization, just so we can all get on the same page and, work towards the most success for the individual. But that clinical approach of, person first, I think is really important because, like I said before, like you don't really have to know anything. You just have to kind of be a certain way. You have to be patient. You have to be understanding. You have to be respectful. And then kind of like, you got to have empathy, put yourself in that person's shoes. Like how do I want to be treated when I'm feeling frustrated and upset? I don't want to be infantilized, right? I don't want someone to just like tell me what to do. I want someone to kind of sit with me for a little and let me know that like it's okay for me to feel this way and that they hear me, and however we can communicate that to the individual depending on their level of independence and support needs. That's the first thing. That's the most important. Just letting someone know that like it's okay to feel this way, and I understand that this is really hard, but you're going to get through this and you don't have to get through it alone.
Yeah, least to most, right? I like that when you said, because it made me think about how sometimes we could be very rigid in our approach and sometimes too fluid. So we have to find a nice happy medium, because the people that we support, individuals that we're there for, they need that. They need that variety. They need that flexibility. And even ourselves, like you said, we need to have a little flexibility. You may not know how to come into a situation. You may be the best trained, but it comes from your empathy and being aware of what are the needs of the situation and how do I utilize it the best way, but of course with respect first and not infantilizing. Yeah, not infantilizing. It's a tough one. I see a lot of families experiencing it and not really being aware of it. So I'm happy that you're able to touch on that. So what do you see in the future in terms of maybe your role or in hopes for this community? In terms of growth or development, anything?
There's some pretty exciting stuff happening in the world, in my little corner of the world. So we've actually been working with this inventor who he used to work at PwC, and he's retired now. He's actually become one of my really good friends and mentors through this whole experience. But he works with us pro bono, and he's this big tech guy that's kind of helping us to extract information from the daily notes that we take in our sessions, to kind of measure the experience of a participant's day in our program, and taking that data so that we can kind of like zoom out and see the big picture of their quality of life going through our program and seeing how they're improving, going to like those like the quality of life factors. So we have been working with him for a couple of years now, and we're hoping to create this app that not only can be utilized in our organization, but can be utilized in all health and human services organizations, and not even just for the neurodiverse community, maybe even for like nursing homes, you know? So all of those like fields where we're supporting individuals who need it across all disabilities and support needs. Something that we've been working on really closely for a while, and it's taken on so many different shapes. But there was a point where we were ready to patent, and so we're getting closer and closer to that step. And we know too that, I don't really know what's happening in the world of OPWDD, but the last I heard, especially with this administration, it can get a little sticky, but it just goes back to that curb cut theory that if we support people who need it the most, everyone's going to benefit. And I know that the leadership in OPWDD is really interested in utilizing more tech to get us to where we need to be in supporting people with disabilities. And additionally, there is still a really huge need for community, like for connection. And so I'm also working with a business partner to create more opportunities for people who are looking to connect with the community. So I'm really excited to kind of bring that to the table once I can get it all together. And it was never a part of the plan. Like I was just kind of like, first I was in college studying something completely different and kind of just needed something flexible that I can make some extra cash on, to be honest. And then it kind of just took on this role where I now feel like really embedded into the community. I understand the needs that are being met and the needs that aren't being met, what people are really hoping to see. And I know that I can fill that gap with help. I know I can't do it alone, but doing stuff like this with you and continuing to have these conversations and meet with people who feel the same way about giving back to the community and making use of your life and your time. Because if we're working with individuals to kind of help them find their vocation, their dharma, whatever you want to call it, their place in life, how can we do that without truly feeling that we've met our own? So I feel like I really am in this place where like this is what I was meant to do. And as I continue to kind of I don't know, chisel that and refine it, I'm able to help other people get there as well.
Yeah, life's a journey, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It is the evolution of self can be a little despairing, could be a little scary, but it's pretty cool when you get to find these like moments in our lives where we feel like we're in it, right? We feel like we're fitting in just right, which is another major challenge, right? That we all experience of do I fit in? And it's really about fitting in with yourself
Mm-hmm.
and working with our population with and seeing the needs that we have presented in front of us. Sometimes we get really motivated to just go, what do we need to do here? And suddenly we get something back from it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said to helping others, and it ends up helping ourselves. And it's a full circle moment.
Yeah. It's like that puzzle piece, how like the puzzle piece is that
Mhm.
like symbol for autism. I had someone approach me and say, "Why is it a puzzle piece? Like they're not a puzzle that needs to be figured out." And I was like, "That's not to me, that's not the perspective at all. It's a puzzle piece because we all fit. We all create this beautiful picture, this tapestry of life, and we all have a specific place where we fit in. So it's just a matter of finding where we fit. But there's a place for us, 100% for all of us."
Well said. Yeah, there's definitely a way to look at it where we can find community,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to share or say with our listeners?
I think I've said it all.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me.
yeah, it was great having you on today's show. I have to get used to maybe saying that because there's going to be multiple episodes. But thank you so much for everything you spoke on. It was great having you here today with me and giving me your time. I hope our listeners are also entertained and got some great insights. So thank you so much for those listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you, Christine, for coming today.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.